Hi, Year 10. Today we're going to continue with ratio and proportion, and we're going to look at how it might come up. Like ratio will come up without directly using like the two symbols that we're used to. Sorry, not like an exclamation mark, where it's like that. So it might not necessarily have the ratio symbol, but it's still a ratio question. So one of those is recipe questions. I'll do the one on the left, then you can have a go at the one on the right. So I'll just talk through what I did. First of all, because it's not that easy to see. Oh, I can just times 5 by 2 to get to 7, or can times. There's not an easy number I can times by 5 to get to 7. So what I did first is divided by 5, which gets me what I would need for one person. That's why I put 1 here. So this is the amount of people all across the top. And then times it by 7. So there's 2 steps here. Divide by 5 gets me 1 person. Times by 7 gets me to 7 people. And then you can see that all my answers are here. I haven't put eggs and pork and sugar and carrots, but it's obvious what they relate to. Right, have a go at the one on the right. Pause the video, and then I'll go through it now. So you should have had a go at this now in your book. And so we're going to start off with 10 people. You might even just want to start off with how do you get to 7? Well, I can divide by 10 and then times by 7. So what do you notice is similar across the two? Well, here I divided by 5, here I divided by 10. So you can see that to get to 1, I divide by whatever the amount of people is, because if I've got 10 people, I divide it by 10, then that gets me what one person would have. So then I think it still uses the same. Still uses the same amount of everything. Bit strange that you'd have grams of eggs, but you know. So divide by 10. Oh, I think I got that wrong back there then. Divide by. Oh no, sorry, yeah, that should be 1. Got that one. And then times by 7. So that will get me. And there we go. So there are all your answers: 70 grams of eggs, 35 grams of pork, 7 grams of sugar, and 14 grams of carrots. So that's right. That's recipe questions. I'll just show you another example just quickly where it would be easy to times up and you wouldn't have to do those 2 steps. If we have a question like this where we've got 5 people and we're trying to get to 10, then do I really need to divide by 5 to get to 1 and then times by 10? Or is there an easier way to do it? Well, actually I could just times all my ingredients by 2, because I need to get, if I've got it for 5 people and I only double that amount, then I can times all the ingredients by 2. So you don't necessarily always have to go down to 1 and then up. It just depends on what numbers you're given. So it may be if you were given 10, you were trying to get to 15, then maybe then you'd go down, you'd take 2 steps. And again, you don't necessarily have to divide by 10 to get down to 1. You could say divide by 2, that would get me 5, and then how would I get from 5 to 15? Well, I've times by 3. So it doesn't exactly matter how you do it, as long as you get to this, from this number to this final number by dividing or multiplying, then you're good. Right, just gonna have a look at some proportion questions now. So I'll do the one on the left, and then you can have a go at the one on the right. just need to get my calculator. So my final answer is £2.24. I can just double check, does that make sense? Where 400 grams is £6.56, and if I'm buying 350, it's got to be less than this amount. Well, my answer is less, so that makes sense. And yeah, that's what you can do to check. I'll just show you another way you could have done it, because this is called the unitary method, because you find out what 1 unit is. So 1 gram here is worth this amount. Could have also done it another way. So this is another example of where you don't have to show it, and I'll just show you how it relates to ratios, because really this is in a ratio here, and I just drew it as a table, but you can equally draw it as a ratio. 400 grams is 256, and it's always got to stay in that ratio. Well, instead of dividing by 400, I could have divided by 40, and that would have got me 10 grams. So if I do 256 divided by 40, then I get 0.064 times by 35 would get me up to 350, and you see that you get exactly the same answer for £2.24. So as long as you're doing the same to both sides, and it's exactly the same as I showed in the last question, it doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you get from this number to this number with dividing and multiplying, and you do the same to both sides, then you're going to still get the right answer. There's no one way that you must do it. You could always use a unitary method, or you could use any other method you like. Right, pause the video, have a go at your term, and then I'll go through it now. So I'll set up in a ratio. So that's litres to days. Looks a bit like it says limes. So we're keeping it in the same ratio at this rate. So that's the thing that's telling us it's in the same ratio throughout. How much water would you drink in 3 days? Well, I need to change this to eventually get to 3. So let's divide by 5. And what would that get me? That would get me 1 day. Times by 3 would get me 3 days. So I need to do the same to this side. Divide by 5. I could just leave it as a fraction as 12 over 5. Let's just leave it as a decimal, 2.4. Times that by 3, we get 7.2. So in 3 days, she would drink 7.2 litres. Again, it looks like it says limes. Again, let's just check that makes sense. So 12 litres, 5 days. Well, I'm talking about less days now. So she must drink less water, which I've got. So it does make sense. It's always worth just checking your answer makes sense. Right, I'm going to put some questions on MathsWatch for you to have a go at now. So make sure you complete them as well, and have a great rest of your day.